Welcome to 𝐒𝐭𝐮 Expert Sessions. The presentation will begin shortly.
Hello, my name is Paulina Gisbrecht and I am Sales, Inventory and Operations Planning Manager in General Electric. And today I'm happy to introduce you the exciting S&OP function. So, first of all, let me briefly walk you through the outline of our expert session. I would like to start with the business and product line introduction so you understand our challenges and understand the specifics of our business. Then I will show you how I developed the new S&OP function in our product line. Subsequently, I will show you how we are operating right now, what is our cycle, what is our rhythm, and how you probably could solve a similar situation in your product line or in your company. And then I will wrap up with mentioning some of the supply chain management tools which you might need as you wish to pursue a career as S&OP manager. So, probably everyone knows about General Electric. We are a huge company, worldwide, operating in various verticals. So I work for GE Power. We are becoming GE Vernova. We are generating and distributing power in any way and of any type you can imagine. Recently focusing mostly on sustainability of our power generation. The product line I'm working with, we are serving gas power plants. So basically we are selling service agreements, long-term service agreements and one-time transactional deals in the aftermarket. The challenge in our product line is that we are serving not our own GE technology, but the technology of other original equipment manufacturers, which means that we had to develop new technology from scratch. We had to do a lot of concurrent and reverse engineering. Our product line is young. We are kind of an internal innovation. We're just existing for 4 years, which is really not much for a power plant and power generation business. In our long-term service agreements and also in our one-time deals, we are selling mostly services, maintenance, for planned and unplanned outages. But for this being able to be conducted, we need to sell parts, spare parts, which we had to develop. We had to develop new production processes. We had to qualify new external suppliers. We had to find new internal capabilities to serve the new market. We also had to develop new repair processes. So basically, you see there are a lot of activities around the parts provision in our product line. So as I started, that was 3 years ago. The product line was still in the very initial stages. So basically the functions were not really talking a lot to each other. Materials team was trying to produce and order parts to stock so we can serve a certain immediate huge amount of demand, having eventually an inventory overflow. Our sales team was selling products thinking that we will be quick and we will be able to serve whenever the customer wants our parts, but without alignment with the lead time with the materials team, you hardly can match the demand and supply in this case. So a lot of misalignment, a lot of lacking information, very high cost of inventory, low service level, and so on. So my goal was to find a match, to get the alignment between supply and demand, to get the functions to talk to each other, to understand what is the data, how to collect the data, how to process the data. and how to define in a SINOP cycle and the rhythm, so we are transparent and on time and low cost and everything what the company can wish. So this is how I approached the problem. I firstly mapped the processes, found the interfaces, connected the functions. Then I collected data from each of the functions. I eventually categorized and analyzed the data. And then I defined new processes and integrated a SINOP cycle in our product line. So let me dive a little deeper into the development of that function in our product line. So first of all, as I said, mapping of the processes and functions and interfaces. So I started with sales and project management team, who are our connection to the customers, who are the ones who is collecting the demand data. So we have a very limited amount of customers and limited amount of competitors. So basically, this was a good starting point, let's say. So then I connected with the materials management team, trying to understand how do we source our parts, how do we purchase them externally, or do we produce them, do we outsource any production steps, how do we do our material requirement planning, how is the inventory managed, do we have any safety stocks, and so on. With the NPI team, we went through our capabilities as a product line for development of new parts if there is demand, what are the steps, what is the timeline, how that can be funded. The repair shops were important if one certain critical spare parts could get a lifetime extension. Sometimes it is very cost effective if you can extend some lifetime of we call it capital parts. Which data did I collect? So first of all, of course, what are the potential and existing customers? Usually these are huge power generation companies which have more than one plant. So which plant does each of the customers have? Each plant would have more than one gas turbine unit, or maybe other power generation turbines like steam or whatever, but we are concentrating on gas turbines. So every gas turbine could have another variant, would require another type of outage, and subsequently would require another scope of parts. So this is the information I was trying to collect. Then, which outages have we signed? So what are our demand dates to serve the customers? Then with the materials team, which parts do we have in stock? Which parts can we produce? What are our value chain steps? What is the lead time of the set? What is the lead time of the product production? And what is the lead time of every component of the product? And sometimes even of every production step of each component. So basically broken down into a very maximum level of detail to be flexible, to have a good forecasting model. With the repair shops, of course, what can be repaired, how long do we need for repair, how do we do the slotting, how do we reserve a seat in the queue of the repairs in the repair shop, because we're not alone, not the only product line concerning with the repairs. Then NPI, if there is demand for parts we cannot produce yet, we do not have yet in stock, can we develop them? And if yes, how long it will take, when can it be tested, and when can we sell it? So then, collecting all this information in hundreds of files, I tried to combine them all in 1, 2, 3 files. Easily started with Excel. So start small. You will see where your data will lead you. So don't rush, don't start it complicated. So as I did, that was there were our customers, plans, the parts needed, the outage dates, which are demand dates, and so on. Then I cleaned the data, removed duplicates, removed the typos, and filled some information missing. And then I was able to analyze and see, is there a pattern? This is how you proceed. So you can use descriptive analytics to understand what type of information you have, what type of demand you have, what pattern. Is there seasonality? Is there anything? And then you can decide what type of forecasting model you can use. In our case, we choose 𝐭𝐮𝐤𝐞𝐧𝐭 model because we have a very sporadic demand and irregular transaction size and time between the orders. So it was the most suitable and still is for our product line. So in the next slides, I will show you how our 𝐸 cycle is operating now and what is our rhythm. Why do I call it snapshot? Because this is an evolving function. You will not develop it and stay in one stage. You will always reevaluate the processes, reevaluate your data, and improve it. So basically, whatever I will show you right now might change next year. I start my 𝐸 cycle, which has a monthly rhythm with a demand review. So I talk to all the regional sales and project managers. I get the information. We have an input file, which can be used by every region to enter the updates and new information whenever it is available. Once I gathered this information, I do my scenario planning and forecast. And whatever I identify as demand, I match in the supply reviews with our materials management team, with NPI, and with the repair shops. We see what is in stock, what must be produced, what can be repaired, and what must be developed. After the identification of the way forward, of the challenges, gaps, and bottlenecks, if there is something what we cannot solve right away, in pre-SNOP meetings, we will then sit together with the functional managers. I will introduce my proposals. We will discuss the gaps and bottlenecks and see which types of solutions we can propose to the executive management. In the fourth step, we are then talking to the executive management, proposing production, proposing new developments, calculating the funds and showing how much that will cost and why it is important. So basically, this is a decision-making meeting. When the executive management, and if they decide, okay, go ahead, produce, you get our approval, then I basically hand it over to the corresponding teams and they start to execute. If there are bottlenecks or gaps or anything to be solved, then I define a mini project, which either I lead myself or I give it to someone who has more resources or knowledge about how to solve it. In parallel, I'm feeding the information to the central supply chain, who is pulling all the information from all product lines to leverage our position towards the external suppliers. So basically renegotiating new prices, new lead time on whatever there is, pooling effect. This information from the cycle also flows into a 𝐸 dashboard, which is a simple way of visualization of our current supply and demand landscape. So here is a screenshot of our Tableau dashboard. So I invented this Tableau dashboard for our team to be able to show our critical components are on the left-hand side. In the first column, in the upper row, you see the projects and opportunities with demand dates. And in the cells, as such, you see the status of each critical component. Either it is in production or in stock or already installed or just forecasted but not yet released. Very simple way to show a large amount of complex information in one view. So let me briefly summarize the benefits and the advantages of having an integrated S&OP function in your product line. So what we could observe was, of course, the harmonization of the information flows, the reduced risk of stockouts, respectively no stockouts at all. We could get rid of the excess inventory. Of course, our service level towards the customers increased dramatically, so we were able to serve on time. We reduced the shelf life of our parts, which reduced the obsolescence of the parts because it is a technology which is developing. Because of the decision making on components level, we could smooth out our cash flow. Which makes the decision making easier and less expensive also for our inventory. And we could provide a high information transparency, so data driven and educated decisions could be finally made, which is very important. If you are convinced that S&OP is something for you and you like the idea, and I can only recommend you to go into this discipline because it's highly interesting and it's highly exciting. You are basically working end to end along the entire supply chain, talking to so many people, regions, and everyone, deciding about very interesting things. Then you need a certain amount of knowledge from the supply chain management. Here I just listed a few tools and a few concepts which you will need if you want to be a successful S&OP manager. Start with forecasting. Know the methods, know the models, know how to analyze it, and understand the statistics behind it. Because if you don't recognize the right demand pattern, then you will not be able to choose the right strategy for your inventory policy, for your purchasing, for your production, for everything. It all starts with demand pattern. Then categorize your products. For example, ABC classification. So you can have critical high value components, then you can have some bottlenecks components, and for example consumables, right, which are not that hard to get. Know your inventory policies. What does exist? How do you build your safety stock? How do you decide about the replenishment and so on? This is also dictated by your demand pattern. Don't forget about it. The supplier relationship management is very important for A-class parts. So you need to have a good relationship to your supplier who could serve you urgently if you need it. You need to negotiate some penalties if the supplier is delayed, so you cannot just take it easily if the parts are not made on time, and so on. Mostly you will have to do something with production, so you need to understand material requirement planning concepts and the master and production scheduling processes and methods. No way to come around it. Then if you are initiating a product line, or if you are just at the beginning of development, then you should know how to do the network and capacity planning, network design, where to open the distribution centers, the storage locations, and probably even the plants. So these are just a few, the most important, but there is much more. And I hope you will explore and find a lot of interesting concepts which you could use for S&OP if you decide to pursue this type of career. And this is it for today. I thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the session and could get some interesting insights for you. I wish you good luck in pursuing your career as sales and operations planning manager or a supply chain manager as such. Thank you. Bye-bye.